Thank you all for joining me today on Sacred Soulful Sundays. I'm so happy to be back. Whenever I miss a week, it feels so strange to me, but it also gives me extra time to think and prepare for the next lesson. So thank you all for joining me today. And today the word that came in for me almost immediately after my mastery class and the last two classes that I did was intention. And I really dived into what that means, not just from a perspective of myself, but I wanted to really dive into other aspects, other people that have talked about intention. But it really hit me from a perspective of how that has manifested in my life, intention, and what does intention mean? Okay, so I'm going to start with what I believe intention is. Okay, intention is the powerful force of purpose and desire in your life. It is the creative force of the universe. It is through intention that everything becomes manifested. Okay, everything. So when we think about that powerful force, which is source, right? We have to understand that we have to go back to the teachings that I've taught about emotions, right? And God knows I've drilled this lesson into all of you, both here and at Rancho, when we've had a chance to do it even more deeply. And that is that there are only two emotions, correct? We know this, right? All of us. For those of who is new, Adita has just started out with us, and I think Carol is new to our talk.
But I don't see them.
Huh?
I don't see.
I know their words, their names right now.
But okay.
So I bring this up, and I think Adita was actually at my talk when I did at the Sunrise Leaders Group. And I spoke about this basic principle of fear and love. And all of them already knew that there were those two emotions, fear and love. So why am I bringing this up? Because intention is what creates everything, correct? Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry you're under the weather, Adita, but thank you for joining us. I hope that this lifts you up and brings your vibes up. So if intention is the source of all things, it's the creative force behind everything, not just ourselves, everything that occurs on the planet comes from a space of intention. What we want to do is dive into the resource of our own intention within us, because it is through that force that we create. Okay? So the force of nature is the force of love. Do we agree on that? God or source or universal power or energy is equal to the force of love. It is through love that creation exists, right? Especially in nature all around us. That's the best resource that we can have. I don't think that anything in nature occurs without this force of love, because it is definitely not created through the force of fear. Do you agree with me on that? Right? All right. So if we understand this principle, that everything that is created in nature is a force of love, it is an energy of love and is aligned and in harmony and coherence with love, wouldn't we want to be in that state of creation as well? Right? And the reason I bring this up is because whatever manifests in your life, because we as awakened spiritual beings understand that everything that shows up in our reality is of our own making and is of our own creation. We don't have anyone to blame but ourselves. We are not victims. We are responsible for everything that we create, right? So what you have to ask yourself is, is what I'm creating coming from a place of love? Is what I'm creating intended from love? Right? And let me go back to a simple lesson that I've spoken about, I think, I don't know, almost a year and a half ago, when we talked about the ego, right? And I love Wayne Dyer. In fact, Wayne Dyer wrote a book called The Power of Intentions, which I highly recommend. And Wayne Dyer's acronym for ego, as you know, is edging God out. Correct? So easy to remember, super simple. When you edge God out of your life, you stop intending with the power of love. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to go over how we do this. And we do this all the time because we believe me, not one of us is separate from this concept of ego. We all have an ego. We all fall prey to the aspects of ego because if you're a human being, that's the way it is. But the question is, how do you recognize it when it's happening? And how do you shift your thought process and your intentions to be in alignment with love? Because you don't want to be edging God out, right? So I've said, and I think Leslie loved when I said that the deepest wound that we carry as human beings is that we are separate from God. We are not separate from God. We are never separate from God. It is in our egotistical ways of being a human being that we think that we are without God, or that we don't have access to the power of intention and love that is God, right? This is all an illusion in our own minds. And how do we do this? Well, there's several ways that we do this. So I'm going to go over them really quickly. When we say that I am what I have, okay, which is what we voice when we start identifying with our possessions. When we identify with our possessions, we are saying to the universe, I am what I have. Okay? In other words, your possessions define you. What you wear, where you live, the car you drive, all of these things start possessing you. Okay? Because what you own owns you. That is a statement that you're making to the universe that you're in your ego. Another way that we do this separation from God is when we say, I am what I do. Are you what you do, or are you much more than that? When you say to the universe, I am what I do, in other words, isn't that the first question that comes out when we are trying to meet someone is, what do you do? Right? It's so common. What do you do? And we identify with this doingness, and we forget that we are being first. That is also an expression of the ego. So watch yourselves. When you say, I am what others think of me, is that really true? No, but it is also an expression of the ego. This is another way in which we separate ourselves from our source. When we say, I am what others think of me, whatever anybody else's opinion is what I believe I am. Okay? Another way in which we separate ourselves is when we think of ourselves as separate from everyone else. And we're never separate from anyone else. In fact, the greatest awakening process of spirituality is to see, and that's why we say namaste, I see the God in you as it is in me. Okay? We are never separate from anyone else. In fact, no one else is different than you are. We are all part of the same source, as different as we may look or seem. So seeing the godlike qualities of others is part of being in connection with our intention.
Is that what namaste means?
Yes, I see the light in you, and it's also in me. I recognize it when I look in you, okay? Which means you and I are one. I am separate from all that is missing in my life. Here's another one. How many times have you believed that whatever you've wanted is out there somewhere and is separate from you? This is your belief, and this is your constant. And at the end of this talk, I'm going to give you guys a really eye-opening tip about wanting or desiring versus allowing and surrendering. Okay? Believe me, this is the biggest lesson that I've learned for myself. Okay? To learn how to stop wanting and thinking that everything outside of me is what I desire instead of creating it from the inside. Okay? So thinking that you are separate from all that is missing in your life is also a manifestation of your ego. And then lastly, thinking I am separate from God. You are never separate from God. You are never separate from your source. In fact, you are one with source. You co-create with source. And how do we do that? Through the power of our intention. Okay? So those are the ways in which we create the illusion of separation between ourselves and our source, which is the creative force that is intention. Okay? We want to be in harmony and in coherence with that source, just like nature is. And I've said it a million times, you know, a seed, when you plant it in the ground, isn't efforting into being. It just is. You know and trust that when you plant it, it's going to sprout. That's the force of nature. That is the force of love. That is the force of creation and the power of intention. So what are these 4 steps of intention? I'm going to go over 4 steps of intention. And these are the things that we need to use in order to purposefully create intention in our lives. Okay? Number 1, we need discipline. I know that's a tough one. We have to train and create good habits in order to be able to use intention in our lives. Okay, so discipline is one of the first things that we need. And discipline sounds really harsh, right? It sounds like something you want to rebel against. You're like, oh my God, it's the first thing you want to resist, because, you know, the first thing they tell you in school is like, you need to be more disciplined. So you're going to naturally want to resist this. But the truth is that practices of discipline make for the power of intention to respond in your life. Creating habits of intention. And I'm going to teach you a tool as I'm talking about this that I found incredibly useful. Okay. So when we're going to try and intend something, and remember when we went to Rancho Ladies, some of you, the ones that the first thing we did when we arrived there was go to a class that was setting our intentions. Remember how we did that? And we had a lot of fun with it. And we used words, right? We used words that would represent what we wanted for that week to be like. And I remember my words were peace. My words were love, share. These were all the words, teach. These were the words that I used to create my intentions. Okay. So with discipline, we went to class like a good student, and we sat there and we took notes and we did this practice. So just like Anna Toole teaches to use your journal, you know, if you use your journal or you meditate in a practice, this discipline creates a habit that is positive and often, and then creates the intention, creates a momentum of intention for you. So one of the things that I like to do is create segments of intention. What does this mean? Segments of intention. Segments of intention are, for example, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning and my intention, my first segment is, what is my practice of the morning? Who has a morning practice? Anybody want to volunteer? I know Marisol does.
Yes.
Yes. What is your morning practice? Who said yes? Maribel? I can't hear you. Take your mute off. I can't. Okay, I lost
I
you.
was agreeing with you that my sister has a beautiful morning of intention.
Right. Okay. So I know that Marisol is a very disciplined spiritual student, right? And she practices in the morning. She maybe does affirmations or maybe meditation or journals, or you practice with this segment. So divide your day up into segments, ladies. Divide your day up into segments. And before you enter into a next segment, I'll give you an example. My first segment of the day is before I even get out of bed, while my head is still on the pillow, I bless my day. I say, thank you for waking me up this morning on such a beautiful day. I know that this is going to be a blessed day. I know that everything is going to work out for me. This is before I put my feet on the ground. And then I say, how exciting it's going to be for me to do a little bit of exercise. Even if I'm tired, even if I'm sore from the day before, even if I'm not really in the mood, I say, I'm going to be excited to do some exercise. I'm going to be excited to do my meditation. How wonderful it is for me to wake up to this beautiful day. All of these practices help me to create my first segment of intention for my day. And I can tell you that it works like a charm. If I miss that segment of intention, trust me, the day never is as smooth as it was if I had. So that first segment is one of your, you know how they say that breakfast is the most important meal, which I don't do. So I fast, but I don't believe that anymore. My belief is my breakfast is filling my thoughts, my mind with clarity of purpose and with positive vibes. That is my breakfast. So think of it as breakfast being your first segment of intention. Your next segment of intention might be your drive on the way to work. If you're driving to work, these days that's optional. But if you're driving into work, you bless it and you say, you know, I'm going to have smooth sailing. There's going to be minimal traffic as I go. I intend to have an amazing day. I intend for everyone that I meet today to be joyful and happy and productive. Today is going to be a phenomenal day. And I know that Deborah does this with her children before going to school. That's her segment. That's her affirmative intentional segment that she creates. Then you might divide it in your third segment of the day. Now you're at your job or your work, and you can also do the same thing. Create an intended segment. So this seems silly, and maybe it's just, you know, it's something that you hadn't thought about in this way, but I can tell you that it works incredibly well because you are intending what you want to be created. And what you want is peaceful interaction with others, being on purpose, feeling great with your day. So discipline, and this discipline seems at first awkward, but after a while, it becomes easy and becomes habitual. And it no longer feels like you're disciplining yourself. It feels flowing and natural. So number 2 on the 4 steps of intention is wisdom. Turning this information that we are talking about today, which is knowledge, into wisdom by integrating it into your practice. And one of the best ways that I find to do that is to teach it. So just like I'm teaching you what I have already integrated into my practice, turning that into wisdom for yourself can involve teaching it to someone else. Number 3, love. Loving what you do and doing what you love. Now, to me, the best way to use as an example for this is cooking. I personally like to cook. Some people don't like to cook. But I can tell you that the main ingredient, the most important ingredient in any cooking, I mean, even making a piece of toast and buttering it, is love. If you do it with love, it's just better. Okay? So love is the main ingredient behind intention, which is the main ingredient in nature and the main ingredient of God. And number 4, this is where we get caught up, okay? This is the one that is the challenge. Surrender. Surrender is the 4th step of intention. And this is the one that tripped me up every single time personally. This is the one that I struggled with because I was great at all the others. I'm a very naturally disciplined person. That's what grandma's cooking is always the best. Yes. Thanks, Leo. So discipline was easy for me. And wisdom was pretty good too. I'm an avid learner. I love to learn. I'm always growing and learning. And love was pretty easy for me as well, because I really have been very blessed in my life to love what I do and do what I love. I've never been in a position in my work that I have never loved what I do, even if it's difficult, even if I've had difficult people to work with or attracted difficult people to work with. And Florinda has witnessed this always. I still have never had a feeling of not loving what I do. But I can tell you that surrender, that 4th step was, man, that's the killer right there. Allowing and surrendering has always been the biggest challenge. I think these days, I think I've started to master that. I'm not in any way, shape, or form in mastery, okay? I believe that I'm still working on this state of surrender. Yes, acceptance. Accepting things as they are. The Buddha said that all spirituality is to help with suffering. And you know what suffering is? Suffering is when we resist and not accept what is. When we want to control it, when we want to change it, when we want it to be different, when it doesn't meet our expectations. This is suffering. So spirituality is understanding this practice of surrender, of acceptance, because it eliminates the state of suffering. That's all that spirituality is. So surrender, which is the 4th step, I think is one of the most challenging, but one of the most powerful, because it's in trust. It's an expression of trust. It's saying to the universe, I know that you have my back. I know that all of this is working out for me. I know that everything is well. I trust that whatever has occurred is for my own good. So those are the 4 steps of intention. Okay? So intention is something that that I want you to use this week with the segments of intention that I spoke about, with your consciousness, because we do so much in this world unconsciously. You know, how many times have you gotten in your car and driven to your job or to a location that you've gone a million times and you don't even realize that you got there? Like you got from point A to B and you didn't even consciously think about putting your foot on the gas, putting on the brakes, stopping at the red lights. You were just completely unconscious. Now, you know, one of my favorite states of unconsciousness these days is, where did I leave my phone? How many of you have had that happen to you? All of you, right? Where did I leave my phone? What, did I leave it here? Did I leave it in the bathroom? Did I leave it downstairs? Did I leave it over in the office? You know, because we're so in our heads. We're so in our heads. But we've got to start like being aware with our discipline of intention in order to have it be practice in our life. We are always in a state of creation. In fact, we are always creating. That's also what I call the 7 steps of intention. Okay. Please call me. I can't find my phone. Yes, exactly. I mean, this is our state of unconsciousness. Like, we are either looking at this and being here, but we're not present to the people that are together with us, or we are leaving this somewhere and we're doing something. We are like really a mess. I mean, I find that we are very, very much in a state of unconsciousness. So intention and practicing intention allows us to get back into what we are creating, which is our life. Do you realize that every second, every moment, every thought, every word is an energy force that you are creating with? You are in a constant state of creation. So I think Adita asked for the 4 steps of intention. Let me give them to you again. Number 1, discipline. Number 2, wisdom. Number 3, love. Number 4, surrender. Okay. So with the idea of creation, because that's what we are. We don't recognize it every day, but we have to understand that we are in a constant state of creation. And I've covered this before by saying the steps of creation, which are thought, word, and deed. Thought, word, and deed. Florence Scovel Shinn, I love using her affirmations. I don't know if any of you newcomers have heard of Florence Scovel Shinn. She was an amazing writer in the 1940s, I believe, and she wrote several books. The Game of Life and How to Play It. If you've never read this book, you have to read this book. The Game of Life and How to Play It. And she says something that is very true. Your word is your wand. And we had a whole lesson on this, on our words are our wand. We so often think, say, and do things that provide an energy force of intention that works against us. And I've covered this in another class. I think I have it recorded. I'm hoping to post all of these in the videos so that you guys can catch up. But action is the 3rd step. In reality, the 1st step of creation is thought. Okay. 2nd step, word. 3rd step, deed. Okay. So watch your thoughts, because every thought, and this is what I want you to be aware of, every single thought that you have is an energy of intention. So the 7 steps of intention, or the 7 faces of intention, forgive me, the 7 faces of intention are like this. Number 1, it's creative. We are always in a state of creation, whether we're conscious of it or not. So whenever you have a thought, I want you to stop and pause for a moment and ask, where is this thought coming from? Is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? Because we often, like when I know, and I've become very conscious of the fact that when something goes wrong, I need to stop for a moment and think about what the intention was behind it. How did I feel about that decision or choice or action that I took or word that I expressed? Because I can guarantee you that if it is not emotionally positive, like if you feel negative emotions about it, I guarantee you that the intention behind it was based in fear and not based in love. This is like across the board, the biggest lesson that you could possibly learn and put into practice is asking yourself, what was the intention behind this decision? Did I make it because I was afraid? And what was I afraid of? Because you're always in a state of creation. Number 2 of the 7 faces of intention is kindness. Because kindness is an expression of love, is an expression of God. It stimulates the part of your heart that is an expression of nature and of love. So when we are kind, not just to others, but also to ourselves, because how many times have you not been kind to yourself? Like one of the first things we do is be unkind to ourselves. Like that incredible video that Eileen posted about a woman's body. Wow. Wow. How many times have we been unkind to ourselves? We'll stand in front of the mirror and instead of looking at our gorgeous eyes, we look at the little corners and say, what the fuck is happening here? This is not good, right? And we're criticizing ourselves. That is an act of unkindness, but we don't think of it that way. But guess what? That's the intention. What I'm trying to say is that in that one thought of criticism towards our own bodies, we are showing and expressing an act of unkindness. And that's what we need to become conscious of. Number 3 is love, okay? Because love is equal to God. And anything that you do with love cannot be bad. I mean, anything, any expression that is done through love is a good thing. It is always on the positive side of the spectrum. So do anything you possibly can with an expression of love. Don't do it because you have to. You do it because you love to. Because remember, I said that you cannot change the energy of negativity through the same energy. You have to do the opposite of it. Number 4, and this is one of my favorites, by the way, guys. Number 4 is beauty. Beauty is an expression of intention. And for a long time, being an interior designer, I had a conflict with this because as much as I love beauty, I also felt that it was attached to possessions or things in my field. And I struggled with this for a while. I said, you know, what I do is more than just a bunch of stuff, right? Those of you who know me know that I've struggled with this most of my life because my spiritual practice, it tells you, you know, let go of things, right? How can I be, you know, picking out products to complete an interior design full of things and also be in a state of spiritual practice? This was my personal struggle until I came to the conclusion that what I do is create beauty. And when you create beauty, beauty reflects back at you as love. Just like nature, When we look at the trees and the flowers, I mean, is there anything more beautiful than a flower blossoming? I mean, when you look at a flower, what's its purpose? What is the intention of a flower? But to bring beauty, right? Yes, it also can be pollinated. Yes, it also can create honey and the bees and the whole 9 yards. But the truth is that why do we use flowers as a state of expression in every ritual that we'd have? From birth to death, we use flowers, right? And that's because they bring beauty. The vibration of flowers is beauty and love. And that's the state of being that we want to be in. We want to be in a state of beauty in expression because we are beautiful. That's the word. Beautiful is actually beautiful. We are full of beauty. We just have to see it. Then number 5 is expansion. I don't know if you all know it, but you are always in a state of expansion, okay? We are always expanding and growing. We cannot be in a stagnant state. In fact, stagnant waters are dead waters. So we are always going to be in a state of expansion with our intention. So whenever you get what you want, right, or your greatest desire, what happens right after that? You have another desire, right? Just when you get what you want, what has happened next? Oh, I got it. Now what? Let me create. Right? Right? The minute that you get what you want something else. It's like, it's never going to stop, right? You know, I tease Florinda all the time because she's always like wanting to finish something, right? And I tell her, but babe, we're always going to have another to-do list. That to-do list is never ending. It's going to continue to expand every single time. Just when we cross one off, we're going to add another one at the bottom. So expansion is in our nature. But the intention behind our expansion is extremely important. Are you expanding through your ego, or are you expanding through love? So 6 is a belief in unlimited abundance. Unlimited abundance. We came onto this planet and there is always air. Have you ever woken up in the morning and there's no air? Like the oxygen is gone? Is it abundant? Yes, it's always abundant. We just have to believe. I mean, from the moment that we are born, we are trained and conditioned to believe that everything is limited. There's not enough of this and there's not enough of that. Therefore, we better hoard it. We better grab it. We better get our own. We better take our piece of the pie. And you know what? That's not the way nature works. Nature is abundant. It is the human being that creates the illusion of limitation. And limited beliefs is part of our ego. Believing in abundance is an expression of God. And last but not least, number 7 is receptivity. Receptivity. What does that mean? That means that you are always open to receive. You're always in a position like this. Let me receive. Let me receive. Be ready to receive. A belief in this power is like stating every morning when you get up, saying, yes. In fact, practice that. All of you say, yes.
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 Give me more.
Yes.
I'm ready to receive.
Bring it on.
With intention. I am ready to receive. Okay. And when you do this, when you come from your heart, like I just got goosebumps. If you practice this, if you say, yes, You remember I told you that the universe only has one word? The universe only has one word, and it is yes. So be careful what you think about, because what you focus on is that yes that you're going to get. So if you say, I don't have enough, it says yes. If you say, I have more than enough, I have more than enough, I can give everything away, it says yes. Remember that. And the power of your intention is the underlying energy and current with which you create. It's that wand. So that is why intention and intentional practices are so important. Because without them, you're like a ship without a rudder and a mast. You're just like floating around with whatever wave is going to hit you. Intention is what directs your travels through the creative process of your life. So one of the things that we often do for ourselves is we're always in a state of desire, right? Abraham Hicks says you're always launching a new rocket of desire, right? I said this is just the natural state of our expansion, is the natural state of being a human being. We are always going to want something else, correct? The reason I'm bringing this up is because we need to want from a state of loving intention. Our desires have to align with the desires of love or the desires of God, not just our own. This is why when we practice a state of service, and remember I've said, I know who I am in truth. I know what I want in truth. I know how I serve in truth. Okay? Whenever we say this, we are stating that what we want is not just for ourselves. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. And that third one, I know how I serve in truth, is incredibly important. Because every morning when you get up and you go off into your life, that journey that you take for that 24 hours, you need to have a state of intention that is of service to yourself and to others. If you're in that state, you cannot fail. Do you get me? Because when you do that, you are stating that yes to the universe, that it's not just about you, that it's about everyone. So when you ask yourself, how do I get what I want? Okay. We always ask that question of ourselves. How do I get what I want? We don't realize that when we're making that statement, we are expressing ourselves in a state of lack. Do you understand what that means?
No.
Okay. So if you become what you think about, right? Because this is true. We know that our thoughts create things. Thoughts create things. If you become what you think about, getting what you want, then you're coming from a state of wanting. When you are expressing yourself as wanting something, purely for wanting it, it's that state, wanting, that is like saying to the universe, I don't have it. I don't believe that I can have it. So the truth is that you have to go about intending to create and co-create from a place of love. Does that make sense? Okay, so you get what you want by being in harmony with the power of intention, which is the source of all things. I'm going to repeat this because I know it's challenging, because we're trained to do this in a very 3D human way. Like we write our list of what we want. This is our goals. These are our desires. We've been trained to go into that mode of, if we write it down and we make all our affirmations and we do everything. But herein lies the key to doing this properly. It's that surrender piece. It's the letting go of control, because you're not in control. But I'll tell you how you can get what you want. If what you want is in harmony with the greatest good of all, you will always get what you want. Does that make sense? Recently, I sent out a video, I put it on the chat, about Oprah, and how any time that she has not gotten something that she wants, and I would consider Oprah to be one of the most successful women on this planet today, okay? And a woman that represents what you can do coming from the most humble beginnings. She has said that if she desires something that is purely for her own selfish gain, she will never get it. But as she gives to others with what she creates, then it happens naturally. So you understand what I'm saying? This is the power of intention. If your intention is coming from your heart in connection and in harmony and coherence with the state of love that is the universal energy force, you cannot fail. That is what I want you to leave here today with. The idea that the power of intention that you are creating with has to be in harmony with the greatest good of all and yourself. I've learned this the hard way because I have been very successful and I have had tremendous failures. And I've recognized today that those failures have come from a place of fear, not from a place of love. In other words, being in survival mode. Whenever I have been in survival mode, which I can tell you has been a great part of my life, okay? A huge part of my life, I was in survival mode. So all I would do was think about, how am I going to, create money so that I can pay for my family, so that I can take care of everyone. But I thought it was coming from a great place, but it was actually coming from a place of lack, not believing that the universe had my back, that I had to be in control. I am an interior designer, okay? This is what I do for a living. And I have dealt with all levels. I mean, really, really high end and not. So I can tell you that there's an expression. What I would like to say is that when you're creating from your heart, your intention to have your home be beautiful is to share it with others. That already is coming from a good place. Don't let those voices of fear dive into your head. And yes, maybe it is that limited belief of your conditioning and your religious background. Those voices in your head are not well intended because they're coming from guilt. And guilt is not a positive, loving emotion. Remember the kindness piece, guys? Kindness, okay, is an expression of love, right? You are coming from a place of love and kindness in the creation and the beautifying of your home. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that desire. As long as it is in alignment with beauty, which you're trying to create beauty for your life, you're trying to express yourself in a way that is more feminine and loving. So none of what you're saying, trust me, I'm the first one to tell you that I struggled with this. What would happen to me is that sometimes I would be working with a client that might be coming up from a place of ego. Okay. And that was definitely not in alignment with me. Like I would never, and I have clients on this call so they can attest to this. I am the kind of person that would tell my clients, but you don't need to spend on that. This is perfectly fine this way. We're going to make this beautiful, even though your budget says this. You don't need to go that route, because if they started going to a place where they were picking an appliance, let's say, for the sake of showing off to their neighbor, that would drive me crazy, right? That did not align with me, right? Because I don't know how to think that way. But if they were picking from a place of like, I can't wait to use this and cook for my family, and oh my God, this is going to be so gorgeous, it's going to be beautiful in my home, that aligned with me. And it didn't matter whether I was talking about a $200 thing or a $200,000 thing. To me, I never looked at those numbers. That's who I am. You understand? So where the misalignment came in was if that person was all about just showing off to others. So you're not coming from that place, Leo. So enjoy that process and just use your own loving heart to intend that. Imagine yourself sharing these beautiful spaces with your friends. Imagine your mother enjoying the beauty of her beautiful room. That's a phenomenal thing. That is a state of creative expansion. That is in alignment with the loving universe. You understand? I say we can't give away what we don't have. When you fill your cup, what your idea of living should be, that you fill your cup first, because you can't give away from an empty cup. When you fill your cup, what runs over the edge is what you give away, and give it away in abundance. So what happens when you fill that glass and then it's overflowing and overflowing? The more you have, the more you can give. So fill your cup first with love. That way you have plenty and abundance to give away. Harvest that. Okay? We should all be filling our cups first. It is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of self-love. Okay? This is the thing that we've been trained, that we have to give it all away. Otherwise, we are being selfish. I don't believe in those words. Selfishness is self-love, and it's not selfish, it's selfless. You understand? You want to live your life in a selfless way, but you need to fill your cup first. Okay? I'm able to share this Sunday with you guys because I have a full cup. I can give away my time, my energy, because I have so much coming in to me in abundance from other places. You see what I mean? This is the blessing that I have learned through this act of surrender. When I was in survival control mode, it was anxiety, it was worrisome, it was frustration, it was impatience. These were the energies with which I worked. I no longer work in that energy. It's one of the things that as I was, kind of absorbing all this information on intention, Wayne Dyer said, that source, that sorcery, that we are sorcerers in our sourcing through God. And that hit me so hard, because I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. I am a sorcerer with source. I'm in a constant state of co-creating with God. And as long as I know that I am co-creating from the right energy source, which is love, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Just check in with yourself through the power of intention. Ask yourself the question, where is this desire coming from? And if the answer is it's coming from love, then you're okay. If it's coming from ego, that's when you have to say, uh-oh, hold on a second. This may not be right. You get it? And it will fail, because sooner or later, I want you to know, sooner or later, if you are coming from your ego, the shit's going to hit the fan. Okay? It just won't happen. And for me, that's become an instant manifestation. I've gotten to a place that if I find myself back in my ego, I'm like, oh, it doesn't work out. I can tell you it just does not work out. So we need to be in that place. And this is what this lesson is about. That's why I started explaining what being in our ego is. Okay? Remember that all of those things that I said about the ego? When we feel that we are the things that we have or the things that we do, that's being in our ego. If we're not coming from that place, then we're fine. So a lot of people have had so many. I mean, I was amazed at everybody. This flu went through my entire family. It's been crazy.
And got
So,
COVID.
yes, and my mom got COVID. Mom and dad got COVID. So it's been even these lessons of health have been present in my mind. How we have suffered from a lack of health globally, which I know, knowing the practices that I know, the spiritual practices that I know that everything is for our highest and greatest good. And even in this contrast of sickness, this is all designed for us to appreciate wellness and appreciate health and to not take it for granted in our lives, which we do. We get up in the morning, and if we're feeling well and we're not sick, we go out and we forget that we have such amazing health. And we forget to be grateful for our health. So when we're sick, your greatest desire is to feel well, right? And that is an amazing tool to use in your practice. It's like, wow, I didn't realize how important it is to feel healthy. So use your intentions this week. Practice this discipline of segmenting your intentions. I challenge you this week to take and break up your day into little parts. Like you know how when you take a video, now we can do this with our phones, right? So it's really useful. We take a video with our phones, and do you know when you spread out the video at the bottom, right, that you can see the little segments, right? Or when you're rewinding from a movie and you're saying like, oh, let me look at this part of the episode that I missed, right? And you go back to that episode or that moment, that segment, because all that a video is little pieces of pictures of segments, right? So break apart your segments. I want you guys to do this week, okay? Starting tomorrow in the morning, break your day up into segments of video, okay? As if you were going to do a little film, okay? And concentrate on how you intend that film, just like if you were the director, right? You're creating a film for the day, a day in the life of B. What is it like? And what is the segment going to be like? What is it going to make the viewer feel? Is it going to make them feel afraid? Is it going to make them feel happy? Is it going to make them cry? Is it going to make them laugh? I hope that's going to make you smile. But divide your day up into segments and use your discipline and the power of intention in those segments to be the director of your life. And direct. Direct your day as you wish. Create it as you wish, because it is your wish. It is. Even though you're not conscious of it, make it a conscious effort and see what happens. And at the end of the day, before you close your eyes to sleep, review your video and see what worked, see what didn't work, and ask the question, what was the intention behind that segment? And if you want, write it down in a journal and review it and see what comes up. I'm sure you're going to be so surprised by what occurs. I do this often, and I do it almost naturally now because I make a point of part of my meditation practice is to do rampages of gratitude. And I know that when I do my rampages of gratitude, the day just goes by so much better because I focus my attention on everything that is good. I focus on the glass half full. I focus on the light instead of the dark. I focus on the love instead of the fear. Make your intention a practice of focusing on love. You can never fail. The universe has always got your back. Thank you guys for joining me today. Again, on Sacred Soulful Sundays. I missed you. Now that we have a YouTube channel, please make sure and share it with others. Tell them to like, subscribe, and be a part of this incredible tribe that keeps growing. And I hope to see you next Sunday with more amazing wisdom and all the love in my heart.
Namaste.
Today.